is back, Inside Politics reporter John Holloway. We've also got Democratic strategist Scott Levenson, and last but not least, Noel Nickbor, Republican strategist extraordinaire. Scott, I had to go on that view that the deputy whip had not a constitutional crisis.
I love the debate. I think this is a great debate for the Democratic Party. For us to be day in, day out arguing, is it a crisis, is it not a crisis? Is exactly.
Well, apparently not everyone's on the same page.
Well, I mean, I think that's a good thing for continuing the debate about whether we're in a crisis or not. And the longer
How can that be constructive?
It's not constructive for running a country, and it's not constructive for governing. But if we're setting a predicate for the beginning of 2020, and this, is it a crisis or isn't it a crisis, continues with Republican-run committees subpoenaing the president's family, you're just going to have this constant, while the Democrats are staying with infrastructure, student loans, health care reform.
But they're not. They're still pursuing all this other stuff.
It's a constitutional obligation for the Democratic
but not
representatives.
A crisis.
Maybe not.
Or, well, I'm not a lawyer. But John, the one thing that comes up is, and we can argue over semantics here, but it usually gets to be a crisis if you ignore a judge's order or a top court order or a Supreme Court order. Even Richard Nixon, when the Supreme Court ruled 9-0, had to turn over the tapes. But having said that, do Democrats risk going too far on this?
If we're going to talk about 2020, not necessarily. If we're looking at Trump's numbers, the whole Mueller probe, the Mueller investigation hasn't really hurt him one way or another. His approval rating has remained steady since Mueller delivered his report to Barr after the summary, after the redacted report was released. A CNN poll from March, voters were asked, what's your top issue for 2020? Not a single one named Russia. So Democrats are in a position to pursue as Nadler's called it, roadmap, the 11 instances of possible obstruction. They're in a position, but sure, I mean, maybe we could argue that they've been a little over the top by saying we're in a constitutional crisis here.
What do you think, Noel?
It's not an issue. This issue is not anything that's going to help them for 2020. Bernie Sanders, who I do not agree with at all, made a great point on a town hall that Fox did by saying, you know, let's not focus on the Mueller report. Let's focus on health care. Let's focus on the issues that matter. Bringing people to the polls on the D side is not going to be the Mueller report and the anger or the feeling like that they, you know, got a bum ride.
Then how did you feel when the Republicans might have fed that beast by going after Donald Trump Jr. to testify to the Intelligence Committee for maybe perfectly valid reasons, but that did they muddy their own message?
Not really. I do think that it could have been handled a little better. I think that overall, I know that a lot of the Republican supporters that I know were a little taken back that he's been, you know, subpoenaed, even though, you know, what we said earlier on the panel that he was asked to do so willingly. I mean, come on. This is just enough is enough. I understand, like we said, you know, with trade
like Scott wanting the tax returns.
Oh, I do want those tax returns, but I do think we all agree that this won't be the decisive issue in 2020. It'll go back to those healthcare infrastructure.
But you argue that Democrats can, you know, chew gum at the same time.
There's no doubt whether he's cost him in numbers, it's suppressed his numbers. And with that as a constant, the Democrats are going to have a real predicate and argument to make for why they should change parties in 2020.
Yeah, and I think this is why we're seeing candidates move away from talking about Russia and Trump so much. And I think she's right. Bernie was shrewd to say, hey, if Democrats only focus on attacking Trump, we're going to lose.
But isn't it the economy, stupid? And I always have argued that Bill Clinton survived impeachment because the economy and the markets are doing so well. Now, I'm not saying it's the mirror image now with Donald Trump, but I do know that it didn't help matters any for Richard Nixon, that we were in the middle of an inflationary spiral and OPEC and everything else and a recession. And that certainly didn't help his chances of dodging impeachment. This president has the economic wind at his back for now.
Right. And nobody really wants to rock the boat. If you have a good economy going and you like consumer spending is through the roof and you feel like, you know, you've got a job and you feel secure, a lot of people, you know, like
isn't
Trump
the
don't like
president doing
him.
better?
It's his personality.
Okay.
It has nothing to
That's
do
what
with his
Scott said.
performance.
And,
Nothing to do with
there's
the
no doubt
performance.
He's got very high approval ratings
Yeah.
on the economy, but his approval rating overall, he's still been a historically unpopular president.
And
He
he's
hasn't
up
gotten
with
that
women
much of a
donors.
Such a dominating personality in the media.
He's
that
up with
it's
women
gonna be a
donors, and we have trouble in the GOP with trying to outreach and get more women. But he was
evident
number
in the
one
midterms, yeah.
with women
Can he
donors.
win with
which is
just his
interesting.
base?
Yes, I think he can win with just his base because his base has expanded to some of the Democrats' base, meaning the working
Well, I don't
man,
think
the
there's
working
any evidence that his
Pennsylvania.
base
I don't know if that's
I do.
I think it's true he can win with his base.
Just
Pennsylvania,
the same base he
Wisconsin.
had in
Ohio?
2016, he could do it again in 2020.
He is enormously popular among Republicans overall.
True.
His base has remained strong. His approval rating is not far off from where Clinton or Obama were a year before re-election. I think it would be a huge mistake for 2020 Democrats to assume that anyone here is a shoo-in. Biden,
100%
Sanders.
correct.
They really need to
100%
take this
correct.
seriously.
We should fear the
Yeah.
re-election of Donald Trump.
Yes.
All right, and not get too distracted on other stuff. Yeah, okay. Final word.